Hi, and welcome to the Monetize Your Mastermind for Thursday, April 2nd, 2026. And today we have with us Jason and Laura, who are going to be sharing about summits. I know there are a lot of people out there that are curious about summits, they maybe been to summits, and they have no idea how to put one together, what it takes, how to do the marketing for it, how to find people to come participate in it. So, just want to welcome you. Big old welcome. Come on. Let us know what you got.
Right. Thank you so much for inviting us in. And I've had the pleasure of being in your role for a while now. So I know that you bring so much wealth of knowledge to your members, and especially when you're hosting these every week, just so much great information and ways for them to really monetize their medicine. And I love that you're bringing this idea of summits because it is kind of a hot topic. It seems to ebb and flow maybe a little bit. It was hot for a while and then it cools down because so many people got on board, and now it's rising up again, especially in the realm of school communities. So delighted to share any and all information that we can with you. And again, thank you for having us. And I'll throw it over to Laura. Anything that you
Yeah,
want to
no,
share?
just same thing. We're just really excited to be able to come and share what we're doing with your community. Um, you know, as Jason said, summits are kind of hot right now. And, I had been thinking about doing a summit back in November. Um, before Christmas, and then Christmas came and I was like, oh, I too much on my plate. And then Jason and I got to talking and we both were like, yeah, we want to do a summit. And then we kind of said, do you want to do a summit together? Should we do this? And so that's kind of how we kind of partnered up to do this. And our first summit is in the Skool launch lab next week. And so we're really excited about that. But I know, Jason, you have pulled something fabulous for us to kind of go through. So I'm gonna pass it back to
Right.
you.
Throw it back over to me. All right. And
Yeah.
Jill, you're all right with us taking over?
Yeah.
All right.
Do your thing. I'll ask questions.
Cool. Yes. Ask away, everyone, anyone. I apologize as I'm working off of a laptop today as I'm out of town, but we'll get this set up and ready to go. I don't know. So this is the summit we're putting on next week that we are so excited to have Jill with us on. And it's all about building your school community. So the idea was to go, from crickets to cash flow. And we're really looking at three specific areas, which I think pertain to kind of any time that you're building a business, let alone a community. And it's all about, attracting the people in, engaging the people, and then monetizing that as well. And I think those are the three biggest issues that school communities run into, but also anytime we're running a business. I help coaches, and I know for coaches, it's pretty much the same thing. It's like, how do I get more of an audience in? How do I get them to engage? And then how do I get them to buy the services? So these are, oftentimes what we run into. We don't have enough audience coming in. And I love Jill. I mean, you specializing in Substack. I know from a lot of the people that are doing Substack, as we're talking with them, that they run into the same thing. How do I get more people on board? How do I get them to engage? How do I turn that into revenue? So it really does pertain, across the board. Pretty much, probably everyone that's listening has these same three issues that they may run into. They can't get the audience, that engagement flatlines, or there's no clear path to revenue, or people aren't saying yes to what we think is a clear path to revenue, and trying to figure that out. And what Laura and I really love about summits is that it's one of the ways that could solve all three of these issues, for some people. Now, I definitely want to preface, a summit is not a silver bullet. It's not like, oh, I'm just going to do summits and it's going to fix everything in my business. Obviously, if you don't have clear messaging and clear offer and a clear way to help people, as Jill has shared many times in these sessions, if you don't have the foundations in place, you can keep painting it all you want, but you're still going to run into the same problems. So when you do set those foundations up, though, you are able to utilize your strategies like this to help really build what you're doing. And whether it's your business, whether it's your community. And I want to plant a little seed because, Jill, in Substack, I think there's a possibility, and this might be a whole nother discussion to go into, though, that I think you could do a summit amongst Substack communities. So I know with Substack TV right now, could be a really great place to host a summit. So even though Laura and I are going to be largely talking about doing summits on Skool as a way to build your community, I also want to let everyone know that I think it directly pertains to Substack as well. And I
And
know that
even
that is
Facebook or LinkedIn. It's just
sure.
like wherever your space is and your community gathers. I I'm big on Substack because I just love the platform and I think it's great for long content and
Yeah.
syndication. But Skool is definitely the place for delivery and community and really connecting with your people. But there's all these other platforms there, and if you're good and if you have an audience there, you can bring them from there here. And a summit is a great way to collaborate with people and mix your audiences together. It's like
Yes.
start with rat.
Yeah, and just as you said, I mean, school just makes it really easy to do because you have
Mhm.
your classroom, you have your community, and then you can also go live. You've got the calendar. So, yeah, we're really loving the fact that school just makes it easy to do.
Yeah.
But you could do it on any platform, really.
Mhm.
Yeah. So a couple of quick pieces, because you had mentioned somebody at the beginning, the questions about like marketing. How do you market a summit? How do you get the audience? So when we're working by ourselves, it's always we're trying to get out there. We're trying to do guest spots. Maybe we've hopped on a summit and done a guest training on a summit, and those are ways to build our audience. But the beautiful thing with summits is that you get everyone else on board and you're building this thing together and you happen to host it in your community. So it's bringing all of that traffic into your community and maybe onto your email list as well. We highly recommend that. But you're getting this in force. So as you collaborate with everyone, and you're having them share about this summit with their lists because they're going to be a speaker on it. So it's also a way for them to build authority and trust with their community, and a way for them to share their knowledge, and a way for them to also invite new people onto their lists. So it really works as a win-win. Yes, the hosts, they make it the largest portion of the audience, but they're also putting in a lot of work behind the scenes, and Laura can definitely attest to this as we're getting ready for the summit that's happening next week. There's work to do if you're a host. So don't feel like you've got to host a summit. You can definitely be a speaker at a summit, but as you go in as a speaker, you also want to be having some things in mind that play into the rest of these points here. One, you want to be building your audience. So if you're going in to speak, how are you inviting people back into your world? So you always want to be thinking that ends in mind of how are what are you offering them to, maybe it's a free gift that they're downloading, maybe it's further information, your talk kind of sets it up for that next step, and then that's what you're inviting those people that hear the talk next to. You can also do further one-on-ones or time with the summit hosts, as a possibility to create engagement. And the beautiful thing with it being on Skool is if you show up in the chat during the summit, that's another way that get to help people get to know and like you during the summit, because that's generally going to be the highest engagement level. So if, let's say you're the host of the summit, so Laura and I are co-hosting this, but we're hosting it in Laura's community, so we're inviting everybody to come into Laura's community, but the speakers, if you're a speaker, hop in during the summit and be active in the chat when everyone else is most active, and you can really build a lot of great rapport, the trust, and be bringing that audience back into you. And Laura, it's not like Laura and I feel bad that the speakers are doing that. That's part of how this is a win-win for everyone involved. And then it goes into the second point of creating engagement. You've got all these different things happening. You've got the speakers coming in. You've got a new audience coming in. So there does absolutely bring about a spike in the engagement in your community. And again, it goes win-win. The person that's speaking, they can have a spike in their community because they can be letting their community know, hey, I'm over at the summit speaking. Come and support, come and join in, come learn from the other speakers that are there. And they can be talking about it in their community, but they can also be talking about it in Laura's community. So really, it's kind of that win-win across the board. And then as far as revenue, the way that Laura and I are setting up this is that there's an all-access pass, and the speakers all get an affiliate commission from that, from the people that they bring in that might purchase that. But there's so many different ways that you could set up the revenue portion of this, the monetization portion of it. And then for you, for those that might be a speaker, you know, obviously you want to be bringing those people to your audience, but you want to have kind of that path that, yeah, how can that be monetized down the road outside of just the all access pass, which is a great opportunity. But you also want to be thinking of that end goal in mind of where are you trying to bring people to in order to help them experience your medicine and have that transformation. So I love that the summit really kind of piles all of this into one event. And it might be a multiple day event. There's so many different ways to lead summits. And Laura, maybe you want to hop in, or we can go into that, because there's so many different ways to do this. And we've seen other people doing it different ways, and we're going to be testing out different ways.
I like
But I think
what
there's so much there.
about what you're doing with your summit is that you are actually doing kind of several things all at one time. Like there's different ways to participate in the summit, and you did charge to be upfront. Did the different
Mm.
levels, you asked for a participation fee from the presenters, and you're using that money to help promote it. So you're doing some paid advertising with it. And there were different levels, and one of the levels was to just create a workshop and post that. Another level is to have a short interview with you all. And then another level was a more intensive interview. Was, am I remembering that right?
Yep.
And so it really is like wherever your comfort level is and however much you wanted to participate at whatever level you wanted to participate. And if you're just starting out or if you already have content like a workshop that you've already put together that you're using someplace else, this is a perfect way to just like if it fit in the summit that you want to participate in, you already did the work, just put it in. And it's a great opportunity for you to test workshops that you think that you might want to run in a different venue or all by yourself, um, to test it out to see what kind of response you get for it. So,
Yeah.
like like I said, that's what I love about what you're doing over there with this particular summit and why it really excites me to share it with other people.
Yeah, thank you. And I actually want to touch on that part about um, the speakers contributing to what we are considering our ad spend, because our lowest level was $50 to participate. And in my mind, if you bring in, even if you bring in 10 people and two of them purchase the all access pass, you pretty much have made your money back.
Mhm.
Um, and really, it is about collaborating, bringing the resources together, and putting that towards the ad spend so that we all benefit. We all we can spend more on ads when we do it that way. And like you said, we had different tiers. The basic one was the pre-recorded. You could do a interview style recorded and then a live version. So yeah. And then, also Jason and I are going around and we're also doing what we're calling our press tour this week. So that's been fun. So
Yeah. Yeah. And to speak on both of those, we're still experimenting with the pricing. For Laura and I, we're seeing, and we went back and forth a lot on this. We've been part, and I've been part of summits in the past, and everyone, generally the rule is everyone pulls together their own audiences. Everyone mails to their audiences in order to get new people to the summit, and this works well and it's successful. But we've seen even greater possibility by having some ad spend to put towards the summits. So by what we've done in this one is basically invited everyone to pool together their money to put all towards ad spend. None of it goes, there's no administrative fee for Laura and I in hosting this. It was just all to put towards ad spend, so that not only do we have everyone's communities, with them letting people know and sharing it there, but we're hopefully getting in a lot of new people that aren't in anybody's community yet, which is great for everyone as a whole. So we're really looking forward to seeing how that turns out. And then we're already in talks about the future summits that we're going to do, and we're going to change it up a little bit. I'll be hosting one that's all around coaches. So if you have anything that you would like to share with coaches, or have some skills, whether skills or something to share there, I will be hosting a summit in my community in the following month. So that'll happen in May. And that one, we're going to have a free tier, and then we'll have sponsorship levels above that, so that, again, all of that money goes towards ad spend, but it gives a place for people that may not have the funds right now, a way to at least have an entry level to get into a summit. So we're trying out things and
I,
keeping
I have a
that
thought about
experimentation.
that. And it's something that I'll admit I was a little bit shocked when I saw the entry fee. But I think that when you have some financial commitment, you're much more likely to take it more seriously and actually do the promotions. Like, I know I have something invested in this, and so I did a lot more emails sent out to my list, and you guys are on my Monetize Your Mission Mastermind, and we're talking about this. It's like I'm invested in your success here. I'm
Yes.
financially invested in your success here, and it's important to me that you succeed. And when you start doing for free or just letting anybody participate, it kind of devalues the value overall of the summit and the participants. It Does that make sense?
Yeah.
100%, 100%. And I think, yes, it would be wonderful to have 100 speakers or, whatever. But at some point, there is a point where you might just have quantity and not necessarily quality. And I have to say, I'm really excited about the speakers that we're bringing in. I think we've got some really top-notch speakers coming. So,
Yeah, and they really bring it. When
yeah.
you
We
have
do.
a handful of people around a really tight topic, I think you're more likely to have people really come and participate rather than having, 100 speakers, and then it's like you get lost in the sauce. It
Yep.
just like you're one of a whole bunch of people, and people get overloaded, and they're like, yeah, too much. Not
Yep.
going to do
Yeah.
anything.
Very true. Very true. One of the other aspects that we would want, just to, again, keep ideas open for people. You don't have to do a live summit. I prefer a live summit, but for somebody that might be thinking about doing a summit and say, wow, that seems like a lot of work. How do we do that? Doing pre-recorded summits. So that would be sessions where you've already pre-recorded with the speaker, and then you drip feed them out, whether it's just a couple of days. We've seen, some people go an entire month. I think that might be a little bit long. You might lose some traction by the end, but realize that there's a lot of different ways to utilize summits, but the idea is always the same, that you're going to have multiple speakers come on in order to get exposure, but also you're going to be inviting them to share it with their audience. So you're getting the exposure. And another key piece, if you are thinking of hosting a summit, is that the trust level gets quickly raised when you're hosting a summit. Because if I'm talking next to Jill and we're together on the stage, there's an amount of trust that she's giving me to be there with her, and amount of trust that I'm giving her to invite her to the stage. So that trust transfer happens, and it happens with her audience and with my audience. So it's great on whether you're hosting the summit or you're a speaker at the summit, but just keeping those things in mind. you know and as we talk about the summit, and there might be things that sound like, wow, that's a lot. How do you handle 20 speakers, 30 speakers, 40 speakers? And also, as a reminder, your end list of speakers is not going to be the same list that you sent out to get invite people. So you're going to end up inviting to substantially, probably twice as many as you would actually have speak. So that's something to keep in mind as you go through this process. But for Laura and I, we think the hidden secret here is to co-host it with somebody. Do it
Sure.
with somebody else. It helps so much. There are so many things that I am just thrilled that Laura steps in and is just taking charge, even with it being in her community, it'd be easy to say, oh, she should do the lion's share because it's in her community. But I am lit up to do it, side by side with her in this. But as you do that, there's so many different, components. There's components that I'm probably more suited to do, or it's easier for me to do. And we've got those going. And there's components that she's doing. And she mentioned how much she's loved like meeting all the different people. And for me, sometimes that can get a little overwhelming. So it's a great match here, and something that I think really helps when you're looking at doing a summit to do it with somebody else. And if they've also had the experience of doing a summit, that also helps. So certainly. But Laura, anything that you want to share?
Yeah, no, I mean, it has been a pleasure to do something together or with someone else, because, for a lot of us, we are solopreneurs and we're working on our business by ourselves. And there are days where you're like, you know, chugging along. And so having a project that you're working on with someone else, it's accountability, and it's energizing, actually. And like Jason said, there's things that I think that he is great at that I am not great at, and vice versa. So finding someone that you do work well together, complementary skills. But yeah, no, I enjoy very much the co-hosting part of it.
Yeah, and I think it's also a good reminder that you can run just one summit. It's not like once you do a summit, you've got to keep doing more and more summits. Laura and I are very into summits, so you will see us hosting quite a few summits throughout the year. But for Jill, I know you said you've got a lot on your plate, but it would be fun to co-host one with you in the community and have that as a one-off, or with some of your other members. I see that some have mentioned that they're looking at hosting summits. So don't be afraid to co-host it, and then figure out what works for everyone. Obviously, you want to have that talk at the beginning. Is there a revenue share? What does that look like? But it can be just a win-win as you get involved and have somebody else that comes alongside of you. And it can be an open and closed connection or collaboration. It's not like you're partnering together for business or for everything down the road. It's like we come together for this specific thing, and then we get to both go back to our separate businesses, and we're fine with that. Sometimes that is a concern that people have when they're collaborating or partnering with others. But I think, when we talk summits, that's a huge piece, especially if somebody's already done it. And again, if you're both going, or if you're deciding to co-host it with somebody who hasn't done it before, nothing wrong with that. I would recommend, and I think Laura the same, that find somebody that has done summits and get some information from them, get some insights, like this Monetize Your Medicine, figuring out what those pieces are, just to get the ball rolling, just to see maybe what some of the pitfalls are, what some of the challenges, and to get outside of, sometimes we can be very much in a box and say, oh, this is the way it's got to be. Even Laura and I are having discussions, just this past week of, hey, and the next one, do we want to have them all pre-recorded, or do we like the live? And we've got, personal or personality wise, we've got ones that we like better. So we'll see, where that ends up. But it's just fun to work through some of those as you go along. And then if you wanted to do it in the bootstrappiest way, I think Skool is the perfect platform for that, because you can go live in Skool, so you don't need Zoom. Everything can be done in Skool. Whether you decide to pre-record it, you can just do a live session and record it ahead of time. Or you could do live sessions during the summit and just use the Skool platform. For this one in particular, I kind of like Zoom a little bit, so we're going to do it via Zoom, but we're going to continue to test, because in Skool you can do it webinar style if you don't want as much interaction, or everyone's face on the video as well. Or you could do it as a regular Skool meeting session. So you've got definitely just so much at hand with Skool. You do want to think about autoresponders, and those are just emails that automatically go out. And the more that you can set up so that you're not having to do it in real time, especially during the summit, that's going to be a huge help. And so keep that in mind. And then you could also just keep track of everyone with a simple Google Sheet. So if you wanted to keep this just like, what are the bare bones of what you need? Yeah, Google Sheet, the autoresponders, and using Skool to go live. Laura, is there anything else that comes to mind that you'd recommend?
No, I mean, I think that really kind of touches on it. I think that, in terms of the autoresponders, if someone wanted to really go super trimmed down, there are, Chrome extensions for Skool, so you can actually, you know, schedule your posts. And I think that's almost a simpler way than maybe even having an email autoresponder. I'm just trying to think anything else that I would add. No, I mean, I think that's really it.
Yeah.
Oh, a way to book um
Mm,
the events. So, or like interview, Calendly or something like that.
yeah.
I think that's important.
Yeah, as opposed to manual, you could manually put them on the calendar in your school. But I think it helps a lot, and that's what we're finding with our speakers is just trying to reach out and say, here, go ahead and book your slot, and using a system like Calendly, or if you've got Go High Level or CRM. Otherwise, you can have them do that. Yeah, that does make it easier for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Especially with the time zones. My goodness.
Will
Yes.
drive you crazy.
Oh, crazy.
And I don't know, Jill, how you find it, but I find almost nobody's ever in our time zone. They're always, either East or Pacific, but it's like, so we're always
Yeah,
having to do the math.
I was in Arizona and they don't change. Like half the year they're on our time and then the time they're on Pacific time. And it changed while I was there. And oh God, it screwed me up so bad. Because my computer is on mountain time, but my phone's on local time. And I never knew what time it was. And I had all these things that I needed to do. I was showing up an hour early. I was showing up an hour late. I was like scrambling because I thought it was going to be one time, but I was an hour off. It's just like, I was so glad to get home. All one time zone.
Beautiful. So helpful. Ooh, we jumped over one there. Yeah, and then just a couple of things that you want to keep in mind when you're looking at doing a summit. Obviously choosing the theme, like Jill had mentioned. If you keep this a little bit more narrow focused, it's going to bring about even more depth. You may not get as many speakers, but you're going to go deeper, and the people that are showing up are going to care about those specific topics instead of having a bunch of looky-loos or tire kickers that are just saying, oh, generally, yeah, I want to work on my health. Okay, well, yeah, let's get a little bit more focused on that. So choosing your theme is a huge one, and really kind of tying that to the transformation. So again, I know Jill has talked about this so many times of what is that transformation? What's the result that you want to help people get? And how can you bring that back into the summit idea? So having that idea, dividing the roles. Obviously, if you're co-hosting this with somebody, you want to see how that breaks down. If you're doing it all on your own, you want to have these as components. Beautiful thing is with AI, you can have AI roles. So it's like, all right, I use the AI for this and that and this, and then I've got to be there present when I'm going live, doing an interview or doing different points. So having that clarified, and then inviting the speakers. This is actually one of my favorite parts of this whole process, because what I've seen is a lot of people are looking for a platform. They want to share what they have. So going out there and inviting people feels to me like one of the lightest loads to this whole process, one of the lightest pieces. So you can obviously talk to other school community owners. Jill, I think you would be happy to have people post in the community and say, hey, I'm doing a summit, anyone interested? Because that adds value to your members. But definitely check with the community host, the community owner, and make sure that they're good with that. But a lot of times, especially if they're going to be a speaker there, that's a great in and a great place to be inviting from, to say, hey, Jill's in this summit. Does anybody else in this community, would you like to show up on stage with Jill?
I
with
can give you another little tip for finding speakers.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of people in the world that want to be speakers, build themselves as speakers, and they often will hang around in podcast communities, like find a guest communities.
Yeah.
So if you look in those find a guest communities, you'll find people that want to do summits with you. They probably are already doing workshops and they're doing podcast interviews. So they have some, hopefully, of expertise on being a guest and having the foundations. And I cannot emphasize enough how important setting up your foundation is before you start going on podcasts, going on summits, being a speaker. You'd be amazed how many people think that they want to be want to be interviewed on a pod, but they don't have any place, a next step for people to take that's logical based on the conversation that you're going to have with them. Or they think that just going on any old summit or any old podcast is going to result in something like a big flow of clients. It's not. You have to stay in your zone of genius and make sure that the places that you're speaking are actually places where your ideal clients are showing up. Otherwise, it's kind of a waste of time for everybody.
I'm so glad that you brought that up because I have also seen that sometimes people don't have something for the swag bag. So in our summit, we're calling it the swag bag. Like when you go to a conference, you get the bag and it's got the pen and the flyer. Well, we're saying don't give a pen and a flyer, give something a little juicier.
Uh-huh.
But I think it's important to have something that you already that, like you said, having the foundation set up that you can contribute right away. You don't have to scramble at the last minute to pull it together, because that really is part of bringing, the summit audience into your own audience by giving something to the swag bag or,
Mhm.
or the bundle or whatever it may be.
Yeah, it's the lead magnet thing. But if you're in a summit, or if you're participating on a podcast or whatever you're going into, if that thing is not really attractive to the audience the summit is targeted at,
Mhm.
you're going to get people on your list or in your community that really don't have any reason for being there other than they just got that thing and then they'll ask you. And it doesn't, in the old days when we did these sorts of things, it would end up that you get a whole bunch of people on your list that really didn't want to be on your list. And it drags your your open
Your
rate
email
down.
metrics? Yeah.
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 And it's not to your benefit to just have a whole bunch of people on your list. What you want is a whole bunch of people in your community, on your list, and your subscribers to your Substack that are actually engaged and interested in the topic you're talking about. Better to have, 100 people who are engaged and actively participating than 10,000 people who never open your emails.
Yeah. Yeah. And that piece of having that lead magnet, that's really what makes or breaks that whole piece. Because, like you said, otherwise it's an exercise in futility, other than maybe getting practice speaking, which is we can always use more practice speaking. But if you don't have that next step for them to take, and it clearly connected with the talk that you're doing and the summit that you're in, because a lot of times, and Jill, you've probably seen it as well, people will set up one lead magnet and then use it for everything that they do, even if it is not really remotely connected with what that original lead magnet was all about. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I love that. And also, as a reminder, in here for when we invite speakers, I highly recommend having an application process. Now, you can still accept everyone that comes in if you want, but this application process gives you that out. Like Jill said, if somebody puts in and they've never talked before, that may not be a person that you want at your summit, or it might be a great pre-recorded session. So just having the ability to look through who is applying before you say yes to them and before you say, yeah, come speak at the summit, is a huge, I think that's what helps make it lighter for me as well. It's like, yeah, here's an application. I'd love everyone to fill it out, and then we'll figure, who is the best fit from there.
And
So it
that's
makes it,
circling back to your monetizing it or asking for a small commitment,
yeah,
financial commitment. And the idea that it's all going to ad spend, great. It's having a little skin in the game is really important when you're talking about putting your brand next to somebody
mhm,
else. When you create a summit, you're lending your authority, your brand, your reputation to all these speakers that are coming to speak at your summit. So it's there's there's energy flows in these things, and it's really important that you pay attention to those sorts of issues when you're putting these things together.
yeah. Yeah, I love that, Jill. And that's such a great reminder. And like you say, sometimes it can feel a little daunting to put a price tag to it. But when you realize basically all you're asking is that they're donating towards the traffic, it's not even us taking a fee. I really do think it is a win-win. And I think it
Mhm.
also, like you said, it gives everyone that skin in the game. It helps everyone to put that energetically or to put their energy in it in that way. So
Uh-huh.
I think that's great. On to the last 2 points here: run sessions live, run them recorded, totally up to you. For me, personally, I always think there's a certain amount of excitement and a different vibe, a different energy when you do run at least some of the sessions live. You can certainly have them recorded. I also know that from polls that we've done in my community and other communities, that I think it ended up being over 75% actually preferred to watch replays as opposed to show up live. So keep that in mind as well. You may not get everybody showing up live, but there's still a certain amount of energy when you're like, hey, this speaker is going live next. Jill's coming up in the next 30 minutes. Hop on for that session. We can't wait to have her there. So that plays into it. And then we talk about how important it is if you're a speaker at a summit to have somewhere that you're leading people. But if you're a host at the summit, what comes after the summit for this audience that you just brought into your community? So if you're using a Skool community, the idea is you want everyone to come to the Skool community to be able to take part in the actual summit. And then where do you want to lead them? Where do you want to guide them? Do you have a program that happens to start shortly after the summit? That might be a great idea. If you've got your ongoing memberships, how are you going to make that offer? How are you going to help them transition to those ongoing memberships that you might have in the Skool community? So having that and deciding that before the launch is really helpful as opposed to trying to figure it out
The
afterwards.
summit should be part of the client journey. It should not be
Yes.
a client journey all by itself. It does not sit in our ecosystem of our business models as, oh, I think I'll just do this month. No, it's got to make sense in the whole journey that you're taking your clients from. We are in the niche of helping business and coaches move forward. And this goes back to the foundations again. You have to know what that journey looks like for your ideal client to move them from, just finding out about you. Maybe they're participating in the summit. What's that next thing that they can do in your community that makes logical sense in terms of getting them to continue on working with you? It doesn't have to be a big jump, but you need to leave the door open for, a small jump and a big jump, because they might
Yes.
already have taken that small jump and they're ready for the big jump.
Yeah.
I love that. And, I think that, a summit, while it is an open and closed kind of event, it is a conversion event and it falls under that term conversion event. And, you know, as you said, that journey, it's not a beginning and end. It's like it's the middle part and what comes next.
Mhm.
So, and that's the middle part for all the speakers and the host, you know.
Yeah,
Right.
everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, Well, I think that is the bulk of what we wanted to share, and we want to leave some time here for any questions. I definitely think I already know somebody had put in the chat there that they were hosting, so they wanted to kind of hear some ideas. But if there's other questions that you have, other details, or if there's, Jill is always great at just kicking around ideas. Tracy, I know you're into folklore. And I think a folklore summit could be an amazing idea if that was something that you ever wanted to do. But it's a great place to just to kind of throw around ideas as well. So any questions or ideas, feel free.
I don't have a question, but I did want to say to Jill's point earlier about making sure that you're on the right podcasts and that they're
Mm.
before I'm in a lot of those groups, like Find a Guest, Be a Guest. And before I ever go on any podcast, I go and look them up on Listen Notes to see where they're at. And my cutoff is top 10%.
Mm.
Um, because it's that's either going to be at my level because I'm in the top 10%, or it's going to be better.
Yeah. And that's
Wonderful.
And listen to a few episodes. Find out what they're about. Are they really your kind of people? Because not everybody's your people, and it's very easy to get on a podcast and find out that the host is kind of wackadoodle, or
I
or
had
to get
one podcast that it was like they wanted to have a gotcha moment. Like they kept trying to trip me up on like quantum physics, basically. And it was so weird. And I was like, is this really? And I should have gone and listened to him first because it was just such an odd experience. Every other podcast I've ever been on has been fantastic. But yeah, that one was like, really? That's what you want to do? You want to like get people on to try and embarrass them? It was very strange.
Yeah. Yeah. A little bit towards that point, we often, or yeah, I think there's oftentimes that we wonder, okay, list size, how does that play? Should that play in regards to a summit or something that we're doing? Because is it fair that somebody with 50-person lists comes and one of the speakers has a 10,000-person list? How does that all work out? And so that's also something to consider if you're thinking of hosting the summit. I is there a sponsorship level for that person that's got a smaller list that they can put more money towards the ad spend because the other person has got a larger list and already has more people that they're sending it to, or whatever that ends up feeling aligned for
yeah,
you, but
I have
that's a
thoughts on
consideration.
that.
Ooh, good.
You can have a big list, but if it's not an engaged list, it
Yep.
doesn't mean jack shit. I'm sorry. I
Yeah.
know people who have 10,000 followers on Substack and only 100 people are actually engaged with them.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal. That's a 10,000 people list. There are people on YouTube that have millions of followers, make, $10 a month. It
Yes.
it doesn't, those are vanity metrics and they don't mean anything unless those are people who are actively engaged and are buying from them. Eh, Those those lists are generally smaller. I know people who are in email marketing who pay to have people put on their list and they call their list like every 30 days. If you
Yeah.
haven't opened my email in the last 7 days, you're gone. And they
Yep.
pay to have people come onto their list, but they just, they want their open rates to be really high. And that's not most people. Most people are just like, oh, please come be on my list. I want to have numbers, but numbers are actually people, and people make decisions, and it's okay to have, 50 people on your list. And if every one of those 50 people opens your list, I would much rather have you emailing for me than
Right.
somebody with 10,000 people who, the rate's like 10, 15%.
Yeah. Yeah. And those are great pieces to keep in mind and figure out, yeah, how you feel about that
Yeah.
Mhm.
and what you want to set it up. Laura?
I actually want to say one thing about this list size. In terms of growing your community, one idea for summits or even bundles is to get together with other coaches, entrepreneurs that are at the same level that you are in terms, like if you have, let's say you only have 100, if you get together with, you know, 10 other community owners that only have 100, you're able to build each other up, because it can be tough to jump in, um, where there's like a group that has 10,000 emails. You know what I'm saying? So like get together with your peers and support each other.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
And
Yeah,
when I talk about
absolutely.
emails, it's different than membership. If you have an email list that you've built doing summits, podcasts, whatever venue you're using to build a list with, um, it's different for everybody. And membership in a community is different than an email list. So just to be
yeah.
clear on that difference. And sometimes you can get into a situation with community owners, and I do this a lot on Skool, where
Mhm.
community owners will join other communities so that you'll join their community, and neither of you is active in each other's communities, and that's not helping either community. So, if you're going to promote the community and use their affiliate link, you don't want to leave that community, but you know, keep in mind when you're looking at each of you have 100 community members, make sure you're not all the same 100 community members because that does
Yes.
happen.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Especially in the beginning when you're just so excited and you just want members.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. You'll take anybody.
You'll
Anybody with
take
a heartbeat.
anybody.
Yes. Come
And
join me. Come
believe
get
the
some numbers.
spam filters on Skool. And get burned every time. I'm like, oh,
Really?
maybe.
I know. I
Just,
know. Me too.
just, just say no.
Just say no. Okay.
It'll save you headache in the long run.
Oh, excellent. Any other questions or ideas that come up for anybody? Like Keisha or Kelly, if you're able to hop on or have any questions, please let us know.
No, I don't have any questions. That was pretty cool. It was really interesting to know because I've just went to like a bunch of seminars this month, well, last month, and I'm like, I'm starting to see some of the same people that was in this one over here. So what is really going on? So now I understand like the concept of what they're doing and why they're doing it and why they are together in that sense because it makes things easier and better.
Mhm.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
Especially,
Totally.
especially with, you know, I feel like social media can be tough, but when we get together as community owners or speakers, we just, um, it's a great way to get visible, really. And so yes, Letitia, you're probably seeing a lot of the same people because they realize the power of the visibility with summits.
And I think you also, there, sometimes community members, we are community owners, we resonate with other people and we really just like spending time with them. Like I love it when Jason and Laura show up. And I don't spend a lot of time in their communities because I'm busy too, and they know they've got stuff going
Mhm.
on. But whenever something like this comes up, it's like, yeah, we can all rally together and do something. Des is the same way. It's just like
Yeah,
Yep.
he pops in and he's just like, just give you a cheer and shake my pom poms in your general direction. And
yeah, and then everybody have like they're bringing something different, but it
Mhm.
all ties in to the whole goal at hand. Like, what's the big objective of the whole seminar? Even though everybody has, does something different.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So I don't know if you've had a chance to look at kind of what we're talking about and some of the speakers that are coming. But yeah, I mean, it's all about school community growth, but we've got people doing podcasts, Substack, YouTube, email marketing,
Emails.
how to build, a cult-like community, um, different ways to monetize school, different
Someone,
CRMs that you can
yeah.
import into your community. So yes, lots of different communities coming together to really talk about um, the same thing, but from different angles. So I love it. That's what I love about meeting all these different people in summits.
That's what
Yes,
I love
and I
about
had no
school.
idea. I had no idea what Substack was until I got into this group. So I was like,
Right?
oh, what is that? So I just got a Substack account for free. And so I got all these little things coming to me now. And I'm like, oh, so this is what this is. So if I want to, I could go on there and promote and do, letters and stuff on my business and then, do the stuff she's telling me to do. And I'm like, well, I'm trying to get stuff together so I can get to that part.
Yeah.
So So
So,
your first step is to go do the quick start guide, and then your next step is probably to hop on as a premium member and go through that challenge. It will like just pull all the pieces for you, even if it's just for a month. Um,
hmm
it'll really help you. Take you 7 days to get the foundation set, and then the last 21 is just doing it over and over again and making it a habit.
okay.
Okay. And we
Uh-huh.
will put the link for the Crickets to Cash Flow Summit in the description for people that are watching this as a replay. And I will make sure that it's all over my community. So We really don't want to go to the school
Launch them.
launch lab.
Lunch lab. Yep.
I was pulling it out of the presses. The school launch lab is where it's going to be hosted, and all the pieces are there. It starts next Monday.
Yeah, starts on Monday.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I'm like interested in all the speakers that are going to be there, and it's going to be great.
I'm going to go on mute because there's something crazy going on in the kitchen here. And I don't know if you're getting all the
Oh,
feedback,
No.
but thank
that's
you. I am going to go on mute though. Okay.
I always have stuff crazy going on in my house, so just like not a big deal, Laura. Anybody else got anything that they want to add or ask? We all good?
Or if
So
anyone wants to put a little thumbs up if they think it'd be awesome to do a Substack summit or a summit here with Jill, that would be amazing.
yeah.
I'd love to see that. Not to overwhelm you. There we go. All right. They're already
Okay.
going.
Okay. And I know Kelly's actually already working on one, so
Yeah.
but she's being quiet today. She's got some things going on. So thank you guys for joining us, and
Yeah.
we'll
Thank
look
you for
forward to
having us.
Yeah.
This was wonderful. I always love talking with you, Jill. It's always a pleasure.
it's always fun.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
until next week, get visible, join the U World Order. Links will be in the show notes below. Bye, y'all.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.